Ever wonder why? Despite the years ticking by, some women seem trapped in a perpetual state of youth, a never-ending loop of romantic ideals, avoidance of responsibility, and constant dependency. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of female immaturity, peeling back layers of societal conditioning, childhood shadows, and the unconscious patterns that keep many women from truly maturing. Buckle up, because this isn't your average self-help chat. It's a raw, unfiltered look at why growing up might not be as natural as we think. Let's start with the simple truth. Maturity isn't automatically handed out with age. Consider a woman who, even well into her 40s, repeats the same relationship mistakes or remains in a series of dead-end jobs. It's not that she's inherently flawed, rather it's that she might be stuck in a cycle formed during her earliest years. Carl Jung argued that many of these behaviors are not conscious choices, but unconscious patterns developed in childhood. It's like being caught in a mental Groundhog Day where the lessons of youth are never fully learned and the same errors keep repeating. Take the example of overprotection. Imagine a child who's shielded from every possible setback, never allowed to face disappointment or the sting of failure. While the intention is to protect, this excessive coddling can leave a person unprepared for the real world. Fast forward to adulthood. When challenges arise, the ability to bounce back is compromised and the need for guidance and reassurance from others takes over. It's a pattern that can manifest in everything from career choices to personal relationships. Now, let's talk about unresolved emotional wounds. Think about someone who's experienced deep betrayal, familial strife, or even a significant loss early on. Instead of processing these experiences, they often bury the pain, creating a kind of emotional shortcut that sidesteps the necessary healing process. The result? A persistent fear of taking charge or embracing responsibility. For instance, a woman might avoid leadership roles at work or shy away from making long-term commitments because, on some level, she's terrified of the potential pain that comes with them. This isn't mere stubbornness, it's a defense mechanism rooted in unaddressed trauma. But what about society's role in all of this? From the moment a girl is born, she's bombarded with messages that equate her value with youth, beauty, and a kind of carefree innocence. Think about the fairy tale narratives that flood our culture. Stories where a princess waits for a knight in shining armor to rescue her, rather than saving herself. Modern media, with its endless stream of influencers who thrive on perpetual youth and exaggerated innocence, reinforces this idea. Carl Jung's notion of the Puella Eterna, or eternal girl, encapsulates this perfectly. A woman who clings to the fantasy of endless youth, avoiding the heavier, more demanding aspects of being an adult. Consider historical figures or mythological archetypes, heroes who had to face immense trials to become whole individuals. In contrast, the eternal girl clings to a narrative where someone else provides the resolution. Think of it as a kind of psychological Peter Pan syndrome. In relationships, this might look like chasing an idealized version of love, a perfect partner who, in theory, will rescue her from the need to grow. In her career, it might manifest as a series of short-lived jobs, each offering a temporary escape from the demands of real responsibility. Yet, it's not all doom and gloom. Carl Jung believed in the transformative power of individuation, the process of integrating all parts of oneself, including the darker, more uncomfortable aspects we often keep hidden. True maturity, he argued, is achieved not by daging our shadow, the parts of us we'd rather ignore, but by facing them head-on. Imagine a woman who takes the time to understand why she's afraid to assert herself, who examines the roots of her need for external validation, and who gradually begins to build an identity based on her own values rather than on what society expects of her. Real-life examples abound. Think of women leaders who, after years of self-doubt and reliance on others' opinions, made a conscious choice to step into their power. They didn't wait for a savior, they became their own. They embraced both the intuitive, nurturing side, traditionally labeled as feminine, and the assertive, independent qualities often reserved for masculine roles. This balance is key. When a woman learns to integrate these elements, she transcends the limitations imposed by cultural stereotypes and steps into a richer, more empowered version of herself. On a personal level, this journey is deeply challenging. It means recognizing that every time you seek approval instead of trusting your judgment, you're reinforcing a pattern that keeps you stuck. It means looking in the mirror and accepting not just your beauty, but your ambition, your anger, and your desire for independence. Qualities that might have been labeled as unfeminine by society. And it means understanding that taking responsibility, be it in your relationships, your career, or your own personal growth, is not a burden, but a stepping stone to true liberation. The societal reinforcement of perpetual youth is powerful, yet it's also a cultural narrative that we have the power to rewrite. Instead of celebrating the eternal girl, we can start to honor the fully realized, mature woman who isn't afraid to face her fears, own her past, and build a future on her own terms. Jung's insights remind us that maturity isn't something that simply happens as we age. It's a deliberate process of self-reflection, confrontation with our inner shadows, and a courageous embrace of all that we are, flaws, strengths, and everything in between. So here's the takeaway. If you ever find yourself or someone you know stuck in a cycle of dependency, repeated mistakes, or constant search for validation, know that the first step towards genuine growth is awareness. Recognize the patterns that hold you back. Question the cultural narratives that tell you that being forever young is the ideal. And most importantly, dare to face the shadow within, for it is only through this honest, sometimes painful work that true individuation and true maturity can be achieved. In the end, the journey to psychological adulthood is about more than just aging. It's about evolving, integrating, and ultimately liberating yourself from the chains of unconscious patterns. And that, my friends, is the real path to empowerment